I'm not going to use that cliche phrase, I'm spiritual but not religious, because I'm a little of that too. But yeah.
Are world religions going to fade away? You know, are all those world religions, because some of them faded away. I was shocked when I started studying religions for that book, Knowing Cosmology, that I wrote, that some have faded away, literally, off the planet.
It's a friendly way of expressing it when you say they faded away. A lot of them were killed off, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, you know, they've been trying to get rid of a lot of our stuff, and that really hurts my soul. I loved the museums, and I loved libraries, and those were important times spent with my parents because there were 7 of us, and Mother moved us from Monroe to Houston, Texas, and there's not a lot a parent can afford, middle class, for their children. So they took us a lot to the libraries and to the museums. And Chicago, same thing. And, of course, you know, Washington, you're going to go to the Smithsonian. But I'm very big about the American Library Association and promoting all the museums around the world. But it's really hurt me during the, just seeing on television, I guess, or seeing documentaries that they, in Iraq, and we were after the Iranian oil, you know, with Bush and Clinton and I guess Reagan, but especially during the Bush presidency. And my husband was throwing satchels on those, you know, they were in all that black, and, you know, it was terrible over there, folks. But the guys started wondering what the war was all about. I mean, people, they want jobs and they get in, but so many people over there are tearing up the relics or the old buildings and things like that, and either robbing the artifacts and trying to get them as quickly as they can to the museums, or that most of them are being sort of raped and pillaged, the buildings and the artifacts, and so this has been a big race to you know, get rid of things. So I would imagine what you said triggered me when you said a lot of world religions have been killed off, and it seems like in this, and you and me being on the planet in this era, that there's a lot of things being hidden and trying to get rid of and being knocked off, if you know what I mean. So maybe all that goes together. Maybe people hate it. I don't know. Go ahead.
Now that we live in the awakening age, some of the religions that were forced to go underground have begun to come out. The Cathars are a perfect example. You know, the Catholic Church back in the 11th century basically did what they could to try to kill off the Cathars, and it was a terrible slaughter of people, and a lot of innocent people died in the process. But apparently a certain number of them still did survive and went underground and have been underground for centuries. And only recently they now have a web presence online. The new Catholic Church has resurfaced because they feel now they're safe enough to not be people to be trying to kill them again. So
really? What about the Ross? Janet just had me with all the dreadlocks and Bob Marley and Rastafarians, or
Rastafarians. Yeah, they're still around. It's one of the small groups. There's a lot of the smaller type of religions. And Rastafarians are relatives of the new religion. But there are, like I said before, almost every day new ones are cropping up. And that's okay, but as I talked about in the book, it's not as helpful as opening up to the open wall.
You're muffled a little bit, or either.
Sorry about that. I turned a little bit away from the phone. Is that better now? Yeah.
Wow, what a difference. Yeah, while you're recording it on YouTube, go back and listen to what you did, and you'll go, I won't do that again.
Okay. Sorry about that.
You'll catch it, right? Let me get in a segue right there. Let me promote us again. Folks, we're just starting. We need your help. On the money that I'm paying out to do all this recording and getting us talking about world in general and meeting each other is the ACO, American Communications Online channel that I lost for whatever reason, but it's back, and Bill found it. So, Bill, if you can pull that up and see, you will see your name up there and YouTube. Sure. And even though I'm Theresa J. Morris, radio is just, TJ Morris ET Radio is just one of the channels. And in that, we have series and we have numbers. And there's a method to the madness when all these people got together on the internet and started setting this up. And I was fortunate enough to get involved in the beginning before we had the internet and help in one way or another. And, you know, DARPA and the government and working in uniform and out of uniform and, you know, just learning. I went to school, but COBOL and Fortran, that was back what everybody was taking and talking about in the future. Went to sneak away. I wanted to be a philosopher and go to theology, but I wanted to go to classes, and the people would say, you don't want to waste your time, blah, blah, blah. So I got discouraged from doing things I wanted to do and take because I was trying to be an investigator, and everybody knew they were pointing me towards forensics and law enforcement and criminal justice. But this was the stuff I liked, but I didn't know what it was called. So I guess it's like sitting around, and most of us have time on our hands, at least the baby boomers do, and we sit around and we would talk about things, especially in the future. And computers were so mystical and what they were going to be like. And some of my books are about that coming forward all the way into the future, and what some of my stories are about deal with reality, and some are history based on reality, and some past lives. And I found that there are people out there that want to know a little bit of both. So I'm game. Mm-hmm. The only thing is, some of these conferences I'm hearing they're bringing a lot of our authors together. They're blending science fiction with fiction with nonfiction. And people are, well, like us, in commercials. But what are children to think? I mean, I grew up where Santa Claus was important, and now I think it's Sanity Claus is more important than Santa Claus, right? So this open walk hopefully will help give you a guideline. I don't know if you call it theosophy or a new way to think, but the open walk, is it a new way to think or just to get you to think about several subjects?
It is much more of a philosophy. It's much more of a philosophy than it is anything else. The open walk is not a religion, and I emphasize that quite strongly in the beginning of the book. That it's not a religion, it shouldn't be thought that way, but it is a way of thinking. It is a philosophy, and certainly then it will influence the religious thoughts that you have, but it is not itself a religion. But
so you can relate to armchair philosophers then.
Yes, to a certain extent. Yes, I jokingly refer to myself as a rogue philosopher. And,
a rogue philosopher. There you go.
A rogue philosopher, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's kind of my approach. But earlier I mentioned the 6 pitfalls to avoid while on the open walk. I would like to talk about those if we've got some time to do that.
Yes, right on the hour. In about 6 minutes, I may play a little commercial, but you go right ahead. What's up?
Yeah. We'll give the listeners something to think about while that's going on. Like I said, the 6 pitfalls to avoid. First, I'll just list them by their names, and then we can talk about what each of those really are. Some people have jokingly said these names sound kind of like titles for Big Bang Theory episodes, but you'll see what I mean when I read them. The first one is the idealization problem, and then there's the exclusivity trap, and the literalism complication, the interpretation dilemma, the absolutism impediment, and finally, the fundamentalist inclination. Now, these 6 pitfalls are by design almost designed to separate us, to put us in groups, and to identify certain people as the other, who then become the enemy, and all of that is unnecessary, like we talked about earlier. So each of these are a problem that we find in various religions all over the world, and some of them exist in every religion of the world, but they don't all, but they all exist in the pretty much all in the major religions. And so if we start with the idealization problem, one of the things with that problem, and I've got my book on the computer screen right now as we speak, so I got to get that chapter. That's chapter 3. The idealization problem.
Okay.
It's like when we take an idea and we begin to idealize that concept or that idea, then as the very process of idealizing it has a tendency to take us away from reality itself. So in a sense of the word, I created what I call a thought equation. Idealization equals unreality. And when we do that, when we idealize something, we also have a tendency to codify it. A lot of our religions do that. They have codified beliefs. And when we codify our beliefs, it just becomes more and more idealized. And when it becomes more and more idealized, it becomes more and more unreal. So codification equals limiting your view of reality. Codification of beliefs leads to idealization. Idealization leads to unreality. And what has idealization done for us? It's not about religion per se, because we do this with more than just religion. We also do this with politics. We idealize either a politician or a political idea, and then the same thing happens. It spirals away from reality, not toward it, but away from it more and more. And as those things become proliferated, it just gets worse. But an example in politics, or part of our history, of idealization that's gone wrong is during the time of World War II, when the Nazis came up with this idea, which I think was a misunderstanding of Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of what he called the Superman, which they called, of course, the master race. And these idealized distortions led to the Holocaust and the slaughtering of millions of people, none of whom deserved their ill fate in Nazi concentration camps. The Holocaust is a spot-on example in which the idealization of a set of beliefs brought about a distortion designed to justify pure evil. That evil found its genesis in the idealization of a belief lifted up as being more important than selected people. That's the real problem with idealization. When you do that, you end up lifting up ideas and say, oh, well, these ideas are even more important than people. And when ideas become more important than people, then it makes it a lot easier to kill those people, like they did in the Holocaust. So we see with idealization, with that problem, it can lead to some real horrible things and bring people into a lot of pain and misery. And that's one of the major reasons that idealization, when it gets involved with religion, things can really go wrong. Again, starting back to the Cathars, as we talked about earlier, it's another example where the idealization that the Catholic Church held high, a lot of their ideas, became more important than those people whom they considered to be heretics, and they sent soldiers off to go kill them. It was known as the Albigensian Crusade, one of the few, I guess you would say, of the Crusades that actually didn't go to the Middle East, but instead went deeper into Europe and coastal Mediterranean, coastal areas of Italy and France was where a lot of these people were. And the Catholic Church just basically sent the soldiers in just to wipe them out. Whole cost, just wipe out entire cities, or towns anyway. And,
how do we know it was the Catholic Church?
It was the Pope who did the order. Pope Innocent III. He wasn't very innocent, was he?
Was it historically archived in the Vatican, or